why doesn't it work? And often it's simply, I said, what's the bottom line? He says, no matter what I do, it's not enough to make her happy. And women will say, I do so much, and I don't get back. I don't get back. So see, there's two different perspectives there because we're men and women and we're heterosexual. Because what happens is so many
videos now being shown.
So many women listening now. Somebody needs to unmute. Okay, or mute. What we see today is so many single women.
And part of that is they're on camera. They're walking around, talking to each other, going through paperwork.
We hear you.
We don't have a clue.
We hear you.
The top one is John Gray.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is John Gray, and you need to mute so that we don't all hear your conversation. And thank you. So there's a little flow there. So I'm talking about how men will typically feel no matter what I do, it's not enough to make her happy. And they'll give me reasons. I do this. It's not enough to make her happy. So he gives it up. It's like going to a job that doesn't pay you. But biologically, it's going to a job that doesn't boost your testosterone. Because when men's testosterone goes down, they experience depression, irritability, addiction, passive.
I think it's better on this.
John, you're muted. Yeah, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Mute. Don't know how that happened. Thank you. This is really a good relationship talk. It's like you can't hear me, I can't hear you. And that's part of our whole message is that we have different priorities and ways of seeing things as men and women. And then we have to add on to that all of our own wounding and dysfunction and confusion. But what we want to do is get a sense of organization where we understand what goes wrong in relationships. And what I've seen over the years, if I can simplify it down, because it can be so complicated, is on one level, three different levels. One is we don't understand our differences as men and women, and therefore we can't provide the kind of support that will bring out the best in our partner. And we can't provide the best kind of support for ourselves to bring out the best in us. So that's one part of it. The second part of it, in a short talk, to look at the main things, is being able to understand what really builds testosterone in a man through a relationship and what causes his testosterone to go down. For example, every time you complain to a man, if you're a woman, his testosterone will go down. His well-being goes down. That's just biology, because men need to feel this sense of success. Somebody who just came in, please mute yourself. We hear you. This reminds me of so many women.
John, you're muted again. I'm so sorry.
Okay, I'm back to being muted again. All right. Can you hear me? Can I get a nod? Frank, can you nod? Okay, thanks.
We hear you.
You hear me. All right. So one of the biggest complaints that women have in relationships, we'll come back to them for a moment, is I don't feel that you hear me. You don't listen to me. You're not interested in me. And men don't realize that, because being heard when you're solving problems makes you feel appreciated. But men don't have as great a need to be introspective and have somebody hear them. They can have that need if they have more of the female energy. What we know is that when you can depend on someone else for something of value to you, depending on someone stimulates estrogen. Okay, when you go see a doctor and you need help and he gives you help, you feel so good. Why? Because, and you believe you're getting help, it's something you need. When you feel a need and you feel I can get that need fulfilled, what happens is estrogen levels go up. When you feel a need and you don't believe that you can get what you need, you don't have self-assurance that I can get that, Then what happens is you go, well, if I can't get what I need, then I'll do it myself. And as soon as you say, I'll do it myself, I won't depend on others, your testosterone goes up because that produces testosterone. It's like independence. Look what I can do myself. And feeling dependent increases estrogen. Now, something beautiful happened, which is happening to everybody at this conference, because what we have is a lot of ascended people. You know, New Agers often talk about ascension. Ascension already happened. It happened in the 60s. It was a huge revelation on a big scale where men grew out their hair to be feminine and women decided to be corporate giants running the world. That's women going to their male side and men going to their female side, depending, enjoying, loving, free sex. You know, you don't have to get married to have sex. You'll have sex. You know, it was a whole shift of depending on outside of them for their happiness and fulfillment, taking drugs and all that. You know, I demonstrated for peace. I got high. I did all that stuff and went over to my female side and got depressed because my testosterone wasn't strong. So on my journey, everybody's got their own journeys. I was fortunate enough to be inspired by a good role model, a masculine role model, to strengthen my masculinity. And one of the things that, if you have a lot of feminine energy in you, if you're a man, one of the things that can really strengthen your masculine side is discipline. So I became a celibate monk. That's a lot of discipline. No masturbation, complete self-sufficiency. I slept on the floor. I had one bowl of food a day. I still have one bowl of food a day. I'm still celibate, but I have sex. I've learned how to have sex and be celibate. It's such a powerful thing. What we see happening to the young generation today is their testosterone levels are going so down because they're so addicted to masturbation. What we know to be the reality. This is no judgment on masturbation. Teenager, I masturbated, whatever. Okay, we all masturbate to various degrees. But what we know happens when you masturbate is that after either whether you're even having sex and you ejaculate, your testosterone levels will go down 50%. And it takes about 6 days to 7 days to recover. But for a younger man, maybe 4 or 5 days to recover. But for the tests show now scientifically, Taoism talks about this, but I'm just going to stay with science. In science, for a man, if he has sex with his wife on Saturday night, his testosterone will drop to 50% when measured the next day, and it will stay down for about 6 days. On the 7th day, it will double. See, that's his juice comes back, his power comes back. And that's power, doubling his testosterone, is what allows him to feel deeply in love with his wife and receive her love back. It's very hard for women to feel romanced when men don't have strong masculine energy, because the whole culture today is pushing women to their male side and it pushes men to their female side. Because when men, one of the things about the old-fashioned culture, a little example here is, I remember being a little boy growing up and my dad would shave. And, I'm just a little kid. Nobody taught me how to shave. And I remember going, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can ever do that. That's like really hard to do. I didn't know how to do it. Well, then I realized I had to make money one day and have a job and support a family if I wanted love. That seemed so hard. But for me, thank goodness, I had a good role model who could teach me how to be successful. I had a role model. And so I had confidence that I could do that. A lot of men don't get the training. They don't get the loving support. So they don't have that confidence to develop their abilities. And now, because we're ascended, the ascension means we have the ability to access quite easily if you're a woman, your male side, which have been pushed down in a sense by culture. And for men, your female side, which has been pushed down by culture. And suddenly we're in a whole new world where, I grew out my hair and got bell-bottom pants and I got kicked out of school because you weren't allowed to do that. But what was that? It was ecstatic because I was moving from my male energy and integrating my female energy. And in that moment of moving like a pendulum swinging, when I went over to my female side, it was ecstasy. But the problem is going to your other side, if we don't have skills and awareness and insights, it's very difficult to get back. And masturbation, for example, is hugely lowering your testosterone afterwards and raising your estrogen. You see, when your estrogen goes so high, that's where you ejaculate. And boy, does it feel good, and it's addiction. That's another dynamic. If you have sex with a a woman you love and you're a man, your body ejaculates, your testosterone goes down, but your body also makes, what's the hormone called? Prolactin. This is more research. If you make love with your wife, you produce prolactin. And if you make love with a stranger or fantasy or with yourself, having sex, online sex, any of that stuff, or a prostitute or someone you don't know, a one-night stand, what happens is you don't make prolactin. Why don't you make prolactin? Because you don't love that person or that person's not real. So when you have this fantasy, your body says, oh, I didn't get love. So your body doesn't make prolactin. And what does prolactin do? It inhibits sexual desire for about 6 days so that you can be monogamous. Because nature is intelligent. Now I'm getting feedback. So somebody's got their microphone on. You got to turn off your mic. You got to mute your mic. There we go. Feedback. We all need feedback in our lives. And if you're a man and you go over to your female side, you need to know this is why I'm unhappy. This is why I have no energy. This is why and one of the big addictions, one of the most potent addictions in the universe is, of course, what nature rewards us for is having sex. But it rewards us more for having sex with someone who loves us, because evolution-wise, if you have sex with someone who loves you and you love her, you make a baby, there's a greater chance you're going to stay with that baby, and that baby is going to optimize in their evolution. So what nature does, it says, look, if you don't feel loved and love someone and sex, we're not going to give you prolactin. We're going to give you increased desire for sex. So you got to keep going out there and hunting for sex. So I'm all for monogamy. You know, people often, guys will say, oh, I don't want to give up my freedom. I said, then you haven't experienced ecstatic sex. I would never think of having sex with another woman. I have the best at home, you see, and freedom. Oh gosh, when I was a young guy, oh, I want to have sex with her. Or I'd like to have sex with her. Or I'd like to have a relationship with her. Constantly being rejected because you don't even follow through. You're always hungry. It's like being hungry for money when you don't have money. Your energy is just going out of dissatisfaction. Oh, I didn't get that. So to have love and have great sex, a relationship that allows you to find balance within yourself as a man, to integrate my femininity and into my masculinity rather than becoming feminine. See, so many men today, they become feminine. They become overly emotional. They become irritated. They become grumpy. They become demanding respect. You should do this for me. I want to control. It's all about, I want to receive. Masculinity. See, this is what's important to identify masculine energy and feminine energy. We always think of giving as feminine energy. Well, if giving is feminine energy, why are so many women unhappy? Because they give so much. You see, spirituality teaches that better to give than to receive. That's for men. For women, better to receive. And then if you give back, you experience a higher level of fulfillment. Your female side is the receptive side. It's the trusting side. When you're trusting, when you're going to the doctor to depend on them, you're trusting. When you're in a relationship with a man and you're accepting of his imperfections, you're still trusting that he loves you. See, trust is such a key thing that women have to learn. That's their big lesson, because you can't receive the receptive energies based upon trusting. And women have so many unrealistic expectations and so much stress reactions today. And if we look statistically, what we see is that when a woman has been divorced, this is where we have big statistics. And remember, when I make generalizations, there can always be exceptions to everything, right? But these are big scale generalizations from studies where you look at big groups. So that big group of women who get divorced, the average is that if they get married again, it's 9 years. And men, the average is within 3 years they're married. What's the difference? Well, a simple way to understand the difference, we get our hormones. Everything that motivates us is mindset that affects hormones, and hormones is what rules this whole body, the brain and the hormones, and they both interact. Well, when a woman is independent, because she's not in a relationship, what hormones are dominant? Generally speaking, it's testosterone. I have to do it for myself. See, no man is an island. No woman is an island. We're all interdependent. If you're just out there just being a monk, I mean, I was a monk for 9 years, but I was interacting with the divine. Okay, so I was in relationship, cosmic relationship. I used to meditate 18 hours. I mean, yeah, I could do that and be fully fulfilled. But then when my brother was bipolar, when reality hit, I'm so happy and fulfilled, and my brother is suffering. I couldn't no longer just escape from this world into the blissful heaven that I came from. I had to go out and take care of my brother, which is what made me into psychology and teaching all this stuff. So I was happy there on my mountain as a monk, so to speak, communing with the angels and God. But to come back into the world, I had to. Otherwise, I cried. I felt pain. I felt suffering for my brother. And that's the masculine side of me, which is here to save, here to be the hero, here to make a difference, here to accomplish, here to change the world. So for women, we have this idea that women are these big givers. No. And yes, you do. You give a lot, and then you resent later that you didn't get back. And ironically, the more you overgive, the more picky you become. And so suddenly you can't even get in relationships with men because you don't trust yourself. Women always say, oh, I can't trust men. There's no men who can be trustworthy. I go, it's not about trusting men. It's about trusting yourself. If you've fallen in love, see, we have to go always a little deeper if we're going to find real solutions for things. If you've fallen in love, are we still on? I don't see anybody. Maybe a little note telling me.
I wanted to make you bigger.
Oh, okay, thank you. We figured that out. All right, thank you. I get to be bigger. My testosterone goes up.
Exactly.
So, where was I? Oh, that one. We'll come back to the basics here because it's, I'm so familiar with these terms and everything. I put this all in a book called Beyond Mars and Venus up there, because what happened is when I wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, people were, at that time, at least the people who read that book, they're more traditional. Men had their man's role, women had their women's role. We didn't understand each other, so we couldn't communicate with each other. So it really clarified, for men, explain to women, if their man's had a stressful day, he needs to forget his problems, do something to distract him, watch TV, meditate, read a book, exercise. And then he's ready to come back into the relationship. That's called going to his cave. And that became a very popular notion. And what men didn't so that was important, because when men pull away, women think, oh, he doesn't love me. What did I do wrong? Or what's wrong with him? Or what's wrong with our relationship? Rather than it's a natural cycle for men to be in and out, just like in sex. You go in and out. If you go in and stay, you become soft. You become too soft as a man. You got to go in and out. Same thing in a relationship. Men need to penetrate in through listening. And that's another thing people don't understand. Listening is masculine energy. See, when I'm listening to you, I'm penetrating into you. If I'm sharing, I'm letting you penetrate into me. And so this is why women would say, he doesn't listen, because women have a much greater need to be penetrated, to have the masculine energy integrate into her if she's heterosexual. She wants to integrate that male into her, and he wants to integrate the female into him. And that's the good feeling. See, anytime you're feeling pleasure and love and joy and happiness and safety, all of that is estrogen. But the problem for women is that when the way you can feel those emotions is estrogen allows you to become aware of what you need. But if you don't trust you can get what you need, because you don't have the relationship skills, that's the whole point I'm making here, is then what happens is you get this fear of men. It's kind of like a child falls off a horse. You put them back on the horse right away. And the more, if you don't, then the child associates the horse with fear. And every time you avoid riding a horse, that program in your brain becomes greater and greater fear. And in terms of relationships, if you've been hurt in a relationship, boom, you need to jump right back in. I mean, like right away, but in a different way. This time, women, particularly women who tend to take longer to get in relationships, is two things. One is to realize you're not trusting men because you don't trust yourself. Why don't you trust yourself? Because when you fell in love, you thought this was the one. And now how can you believe if you start to get with another man? How do I know he's the one? So that's the first step. The second step is, without the knowledge of how men and women are different, women particularly have no idea of how they sabotage relationships, how they bring out the worst in a man. I'm not saying that, he doesn't do bad things or whatever, but she doesn't know her role in contributing to that. And so that's where you have to understand that, for example, as men are addicted to masturbation and porn now, which completely inhibits their ability to fully bond with a real woman. And we see this now with these kids who are growing up with all the porn and the computers. By the time they're 21, males get in a relationship with a woman. They start to feel some estrogen, some love, and he just has such low testosterone, he can't even get an erection. But if he's with a woman that doesn't produce estrogen, testosterone, opposite forces, yin yang. So here's a woman online. Hey, I don't care about her. She doesn't care about me. There's no estrogen. That creates the space for testosterone levels to rise up. But when you love someone, estrogen gets produced. That dampens testosterone. So relationships has to have tremendous skills to keep men's testosterone up so that then he can continue to feel desire and passion and motivation and have great sex. So he's not even tempted to think of another woman. And this is like this is what's possible if you're an ascended master. And you're all ascended masters. I don't know about the master phrase there, but we're ascended. And ascended means you have access to your male and female sides. But the problem with having access to your male and female sides, if you're a man and you go to your female side, we don't have the skills to come back to our male side. And to a great extent, society is saying your male side is not a very good place to be. And then the flip side of that is for women to be on their female side. Well, society pushed women down so much, and there was such a lack of respect for women and femininity and mothers, like women embarrassed to say, what do you do? Oh, I'm a mother. Oh, you're not doing anything significant. There was so much putting down of femininity that women go to their male side. They don't want to go back to their female side. And I'm not saying go back and stay there. I'm saying integrate, be feminine, and also have your power as a masculine side. And there's techniques to do this, but these techniques have never been taught, but they're kind of implied when a woman says, I need you to listen. And men say, I do listen. You're not listening to me. That's because he doesn't understand. She needs to be heard more than he does. But he thinks he needs to be heard more because he's on his female side. And women don't realize that when they're way on their male side, one of the things that teases you or gives you a surge of estrogen, it doesn't last long though. Because remember, if a woman is chronically stressed, her estrogen levels are low, very low. If a man is chronically stressed, passive, irritable, grumpy, mad, any of those defensive reactions that we have as men, our testosterone is low and our estrogen is rising. And this is not even common knowledge yet. And it was discovered like 20 years ago, that testosterone, and it's obvious when you look at it. I mean, when is a man's testosterone the highest? When he falls in love. And when is a woman's estrogen level the highest? Is when she has an orgasm. And what precedes having a real big orgasm is feeling love, feeling out of your mind, feeling safe, totally safe, and feeling this is what I need. Masculinity, giving me pleasure. See, this is our possibilities. Now, that wasn't possible before because we hadn't yet ascended. We didn't have access to these parts of who we were. Men could be feminine, but they couldn't be masculine and feminine at the same time, except for a few. Those would be the greats. All of the greats throughout history, people who had a huge impact, great politicians who truly served their people, great artists who truly inspired others, great scientists, all these people who have sort of made their mark, was it the doctors, the researchers, scientists, they would get into these states of flow where they access the higher knowledge that we're beginning to access through us, and it would come through, and they would find their mission and purpose and how they fit into the whole. It's only at those times when they found that balance of the male and female. The problem is, and this is very interesting, I have some books that I read for fun books, sex lives of great musicians, sex lives of the greatest artists, sex lives of the greatest politicians. And they're just all over the place. We're talking about torment and frustration and affairs and cheating and divorces and self-mutilation. I mean, we're talking the full gamut of everything, a little painful when it comes to sex or stability, heartache, hurt, You know, and why that's so is they couldn't maintain that balance. They go too far to the feminine. When a man goes too far to the feminine, he can't stay turned on to a woman. When a woman goes too far to her masculine, she can't have estrogen, which is going to give her orgasms and feel attraction to a man and feel her happiness. And so, you know, this is like a big mess. And what is happening right now, it's like kind of like somebody has to turn on. If I'm speaking and somebody doesn't mute I get this feedback. So yeah, somebody needs to mute. So this is you know, we're kind of seeing in my talk communication breakdown here. And what I want you to know is let's take this as a lesson. Okay, so let's say I'm listening to my wife, and then she says, "You're not listening to me." Most men will go, I am, and he wants to talk now. Men, you should just mute it. If I can give men one, if you're interested in a loving relationship to grow in love, and you have a partner and you're sexually attracted to her, that means there's something inside of her. Remember the soulmate thing, something over there that your soul is wanting to integrate, wanting to find within yourself. See, this works in many ways, not just sexually. When I was a young man, I was totally drawn to Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. He was my role model in my 20s. He started the Transcendental Meditation movement. I went to every class he ever taught while he was still doing public talks and everything. I traveled with him. I eventually became his personal assistant. He was like my father. We had an amazing relationship for 9 years. And I was drawn to him like a magnet because he expressed the world teacher in me. Now, it sounds grandiose to say I'm a world teacher, but I am. I have 100 million books that have been sold. I teach in all these countries. So I'm a world teacher. I've influenced millions and millions of people. And he influenced millions and millions of people. So there was something in him that I needed to integrate inside of myself in order to discover within myself. But it wasn't my female side. It was my spiritual side that can embrace the whole world and feel one with the world. Which, you know, for people who really do a lot of meditation, and I know some of you do, and have terrible relationships, just boy, when you get in a relationship and you're one with the universe, you're one with God, okay? And then somebody treats you, why are you doing that? Well, you shouldn't say that. How could you do that? Your buttons get pushed. And what happens when your buttons get pushed is you end up pushing people away, as opposed to the second thing I mentioned. We have to understand the differences between men and women. Very important. There's so much. I mean, I got 28 books over there. You think it's only a little thing? Oh, there's so much. There's so much. You just don't know what you don't know, as Donald Rumsfeld said. You just don't know what you don't know. But when you're in a relationship, and you know, I just heard Michael Beckworth, and he's just so wonderful. Beautiful, inspiring talk. He said, we should all be of good cheer. We should all be of good cheer. We're one with the universe. We create our reality. Yes, we do, until we get married. And then we say, I didn't create that. That's her problem. You know, I could give a success seminar, and everybody, I say, if you want more success, you got to change your approach, change your mindset. Everybody goes, yes, yes. How do we do it? What do we do? And then you get a couple who's having problems in relationship. I say, well, now you got to change your approach. No, he needs to change his approach. Women are always saying, how can I get him to change? How can I get him to change? The more you want your partner to change, the more you need to reflect back and realize that's how much I need to change. But how do you change if you don't know the right direction to go in? And that's why I've written all these books, is to give you understanding of practical ways to change. For some of those, we can simplify those. We can simplify those aspects by looking at the plumbing, basic biology. Men, if your testosterone is low, how your stress levels are up, and blood flow stops to your ascended master. You can't have blood flow go to the front part of your brain. The only part of your brain which has DNA, and who knows, it might be alien DNA, that they came in and we're a bunch of chimpanzees and they put this alien DNA in us, and now we can be like reasonable, rational beings. That's some people's theories. How did we go from monkey to human? What we do know is the DNA in our brain is very much like dinosaurs, like snakes, in the very back part of our brain. That's the unconscious, that's the instinctive part of us. Then the middle part of the brain, limbic system, is mainly, and most of the brain, is the DNA of monkeys, chimpanzees. And only one part of the brain, the size of your palm on the front part of your brain, which activates your pineal gland, it's only that part of the brain which is human. Everything else is like animal. We are animals, but we got this driver, which is our higher self. You can't connect to your higher self, to your wisdom, to your compassion, to your empathy, and most important, to your ability to consciously evolve with the creator. See, if you're unconscious, it's a long process. But once you have this DNA where you can self-reflect, you can now say, oh, I've got an automatic reaction. Is that a loving reaction? No. Is that a blaming reaction? No. Is that making somebody else responsible for how I feel? No. That's not something that's not from my higher self. The higher self knows it creates reality. And so why am I creating reality? Is that if you're reacting in a certain way and you don't remove that reaction, transform it, the universe is going to keep reacting to you that way to point out to you that that doesn't work. If you get angry with somebody, what are they going to do? They're going to get angry back. If you blame somebody, what do? They blame you back. Now look at gender. Women, if you complain to a man, he will complain back. He becomes feminine and complains back. He says, why I say complaining is feminine is because complaining is basically saying, I'm not getting what I need. It's about receptivity. But a complaint is now saying, I'm not getting what I need, and you should change. As opposed to, oh, I'm not happy, I need to change. And then once I've changed, balance my hormones, use my intelligence, and figure out a way to motivate that other person to give me a little more and a little bit more. But you can never motivate anybody from a place of lack. You're not doing enough. As soon as you point out to your partner something's wrong with you, you're not doing enough, they go into a defensive mode. They stay stuck that way. Here's a little example, because it gets a little heady. So let me come back to a simple example. And just for clarity, my wife, Bonnie, died of cancer 2.5 years ago. And I'm still on the other end of the grieving process. I got back on the horse. I'm in love. I have a wonderful relationship. And I'm still processing the loss of my life, my wife, and the loss of my life. It's a different life now. So that's, she's my soulmate. And are there two soulmates people can ask? Absolutely. I found another soulmate who now reflects another part of me that needs to grow and want to move on. You're in a relationship for the growth, and you're not every soulmate. If you're with a soulmate, they have the ability to push your buttons, because in expressing who they are, you will feel your resistance to who they are. And it's that very thing that you're resisting is what you're resisting within yourself. And you have to embrace that. It's like, a simple example of this. There's so many examples that I put in my books and everything, but a simple example is amplify and minimize. Amplify and minimize. When you're upset, if you're a monkey, for example, and somebody steps on your foot, you go, wow. Particularly if you can't communicate, you make a big noise. You raise your voice, ow. And if they do it again, they don't seem to understand. So you make it louder and louder. That's our female side. And remember, when I'm saying female, men can be on their female side too. But that's where we get all upset. And you can measure hormones when we get all upset. Estrogen levels are surging. They're up there. Now, that's the monkey inside of us. That's the amplify side. That's the female side of us. Now, there's another side of us, the male side of us, that minimizes, ignores, goes into denial. Not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Not a problem. Exclusion, hyper focus. I'm not looking at that. Okay. So, and that would be denial of my responsibility. That would be, I blame everybody for everything as well. That was way our male side does that. Doesn't see how I contribute to the problem. The female side of it says you are contributing to the problem. Okay. And we have both this. Don't get caught up in, he's saying this about women, he's saying this about men. What I'm saying is we have a male and female side, and we need to understand those tendencies, because whenever I am blaming out, I know I'm going out of balance as a man, because I'm going to my female side. Like feelings of hurt, for example. This is very deep unconscious stuff, like pretty much you're accessing at that time wounds from your first 7 years of life where you were in theta state, and you absorbed all your parent wounds and traumas and so forth, the inability to trust. So Just take a moment to take a drink here. I want to throw in some practical things for you. Those of you that are actually in relationships, and if you have children, you really see these things happening. Women's stress level goes up. Stress. You can't function from the prefrontal cortex of your brain. When you can't function from the prefrontal cortex of your brain, you have no free will. You have no choice. That's the whole idea is God made us, the whole religious thing with free will. We're not animals. We have free will. But when we're not using our free will, we're animals. We're just behaving the way our parents did and their parents back to their ancestors who are monkeys. So we gain free will only when we're feeling balance between our male and female hormones. And everybody's got their own unique balance. You have a balance of those hormones that will lower your stress. And it's proven. We know that when women's estrogen levels are low, their stress levels are high, blood flow stops to the front part of the brain. When men's testosterone levels are low, basically their stress levels are higher. And then their estrogen levels go even higher. They become even more stressed. Blood flow stops to the front part of the brain. So literally you've lost your free will. Now, another example of that, of having free will, but not using it. Okay. Yeah,
I
you
didn't
guys
touch
turn
a
it off.
thing. I just left the booth.
We can hear you.
Video me.
Okay. If you can, thank you. This is like marriage. You're trying to have a relationship. Your kids are interacting with you all the time. Okay. So where was I there? Going to your male side, going to your female side. Let me take a moment to reset myself. And let me say this to you guys. Let me say this to the guys listening.
No.
When a woman is
Hello, Magic.
accessing her
They
intuition
should
and
see your
feeling,
face too.
hey guys, we see you and you're talking. Please turn off. It's mute. Thank you. Now, what you're seeing here in a guy is trust. Okay. Men it's like not becoming impatient. Now, the reason I can do that is I'm an expert on communication. I've known throughout the years, when I give a talk on communication, the communication breaks down. It always does. And it's literally trained me to be patient when communication breaks down. And men, this is the most important thing for you to learn. When women interrupt you, and they do, and men interrupt women, of course they do, but when women say you're not listening, stop talking. Even though in your mind you think, wait a second, you've talked 10 times more than me. just get that, just as I keep getting interrupted, I need to sort of reset myself. Well, if a woman is talking about her feelings and what's going on, she's really in a process of connecting with her intuition, exploring inside herself. And then you come in with what's called a fix it. Fixes would be you minimize instead of amplify. You say, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. It's not a problem. Oh, I can solve that for you. Oh, that's easy. Don't worry about that. These are minimizing statements. Now, why do men do that? Because that's how men can rebuild their testosterone and lower their stress level. That's a talent that we men have. It's a good thing is to minimize in order to rebuild your testosterone levels if your estrogen's too high. If your estrogen's not too high and you're like being present with her, your testosterone's doing fine, what you don't know is the skill that don't minimize her. If you minimize, she will amplify more. And women, if you amplify your complaints, as I was mentioning before, because your communication isn't effective, if you amplify, men will tend to minimize it. So how do you get a man to listen to you if you want to ask him to do something for you instead of complain? Because see, every complaint is really a request. And if you're going to complain to a guy, what you have to know is that is one of the most addictive things that happens to women, is that you create a pathway in your brain in order, if you use negative emotion, this is one concept, just get this. If you use negative emotion to get more of what you want, then whenever you're feeling, I want more in life, your brain will look for reasons to trigger negative emotions. And you become addicted to looking at negativity. And that's called overwhelm. And that's called bias, to look at the negative instead of the positive. And that's what happens. So many women just don't get involved in relationships again because they spent so many times complaining in the previous relationship or to their friends about that relationship, or in their mind, they're regurgitating. There's a loop going, yes, but men are this way, or he did that and he did that. And as long as you verbalize that to get compassion, to get sympathy from people, to tell people how bad you have it, all the reasons you're not getting involved again, or simply to avoid relationships. See, every time you avoid getting back on the horse, you're strengthening your belief that I can't get what I need from a man. If I can't get what I need from a man, then whenever I'm thinking about getting what I need from a man, I will go into negative emotions. I'll look for reasons why I can't get what I want from that man. And you become overly picky. This is like amazing stuff. So let me simplify it. If you came to my house, you'd say, oh, what a beautiful home. You'd enjoy it. But if you came to my house and you wanted to buy the house, you'd have a bias towards looking at what's wrong with the house. So one practical piece of advice today: start dating again to men that are not marriage material, that are not your soulmate, and date them for the point of view of simply practicing your relationship skills, because you will always have mistrust of men and you will not get back on that horse, and it will get worse and worse and worse until you start practicing the dating skills and see how bad they are. And how bad they are is only when you know what's correct, what works, and what doesn't work. And when women read my book on dating, or my book Beyond Mars and Venus, you can then realize, oh my gosh, my last relationship. Yes, I've got a million complaints about this guy, and certainly they might all be true. But what I don't see is how I contributed to those problems, how I made it worse. Because you don't know, because you're always giving more than you're getting poisons a man. It brings out the worst in him. Giving because you've received is a place of appreciating him, trusting him, accepting him just the way he is. And if you start with a guy that's not marriage material, you're not going to be so picky. And when you're not picky, it doesn't act, there's no fight or flight. You know, if you suddenly find a guy and he's a diamond, you're afraid of losing that diamond. So all of your automatic programming comes in, and that automatic program is what sabotaged your last relationship. And then you happen to get in the right relationship. We'll go in that direction here. And now you're with your soulmate. You feel this amazing love. You feel it so good. The soulmate is the person that you feel an attraction to, because they embody certain qualities, and it's a little bit different for everybody. They embody certain qualities that need to be integrated into who you are. So amplify, make a big deal out of it, listen to me, see me, put on makeup, whatever, be cheerful or be upset, either one. Look, see, hear, touch, me. That's our female side. Now, that's amplify. And oh, I didn't get what I want. It's a big problem. That's amplify. That's addictive. That's what you have to know. That's an addictive loop. They looked at people who are chronically depressed because they had a complaint and they felt they'll never get what they want. They never get what they want. They're grieving. They're upset. They never get through it. They don't heal it. They put them in MRI scans, and they found that when they began to grieve, the brain lit up as though they were taking cocaine. Just as when a man does pornography, it's as though he's taking cocaine for that brief moment. And what that does, it desensitizes us from our ability to experience normal pleasure. That's why you have what's called an addiction, where you keep going back for more and more. So the male who gets a higher dose of dopamine online desensitizes dopamine receptor sites. So he loses about 30%, according to science, of his ability to experience pleasure unless it's an addictive stimulation. So normal stimulation is now 30% less than it could be. And that's not enough with a real woman to keep your testosterone up. And then you get married, and then you have children. That's already proven that men, when they get married, actually single men typically have the highest testosterone compared to men who make a commitment. That means they love a woman more. That means estrogen's coming up. Then he gets married, it goes down even more, according to the studies. And then he has children, it goes down even more. Now, I'm in a committed relationship for 34 years, having great sex. My testosterone, almost 7 years old, is 25 to 50% higher, depending on when I test it, than when I was a young man. It's not inevitable. You know, they say, oh, men's testosterone goes down. No, come on. It's men just lose their ability to feel successful. And a big part of that is biologically too much ejaculation. It's either too much sex, because I told you the biology is showing us sex once a week, ejaculating once a week, you'll at least have recovery. And recovery is very important if you want to reestablish that bond with your partner so you have what you need. Because men need to experience that high level of testosterone to stay bonded with a woman. And complaining just knocks it down, knocks it down. So what do? I mean, you have to retrain the plasticity in your brain to suddenly start going, when I'm not happy, don't use negativity to get more. As soon as you use negativity to get more, you're training your brain to look for negativity in order to get more, and you become pessimistic and you can't trust yourself as well, as I talked about before. So, Michael Beckworth talking about be of good cheer, be of good cheer. Yes, let's all be of good cheer. And when things upset us, let's not ignore them. Just don't verbalize them to the person that upset us, because that's usually to try to get them to not hurt us anymore, or not ignore us anymore, or not neglect us anymore, or not complain about us anymore, or not be rejecting of us. Don't use your pain to change other people. Use your pain to bring more spirit into you. It's only through the cracks of imperfection that the divine can come. It's only in a dark room that the light can come in. If you want to be a light being, you've got to be aware of your dark side. And the way you become aware of your dark side is you're in an intimate relationship that matters, that you're invested in. That's when your heart opens the most. That's when you're most vulnerable, being hurt and being triggered for your unresolved issues in childhood. So I've written books called What You Feel You Can Heal, How to Process Your Pain, Your Upset Reactions. So for women, it's learning how, when you're upset with your partner, to rebuild your estrogen. For men, how to rebuild your testosterone and then process the emotional pain that's inside of you. For women, it's processing your emotional pain without depending on your partner, but on yourself, and then learning how you contributed to the problem. And that's your male side. So what we want to do is recognize there's no greater, if you're born heterosexual, there's no greater pathway to personal success and transformation than making love. And what is making love? Sex and love. It's called making love because it recharges us so that then the world can suck it out of us as we serve. And you come back and recharge again through making love. And there we need a whole knowledge of how to make sure her needs are being met in making love and his needs are met in making love. And that's why I've got a whole class online at my website, marsvenus.com, on Mars Venus in the Bedroom, Secrets of Great Sex. Got all the communication courses. And I invite you, as my time's running out, come to marsvenus.com for a free class with greater detail, 3-day class free, right on the homepage, marsvenus.com.
And just let me know, John, at 1 o'clock, this thing will just turn off. So,
Yeah, I'm just finishing. That's it. It's almost 1 o'clock. And I want to thank you all for joining me. And thank you, Ken, for inviting me once again. And this was crazy with all this back and forth. You got to get it together. But I had a great time. And I thank you so much. I'd enjoy it more if it was like steady. Thank you again.
Great. You had a good time. That's what's important. And everybody else had a good time. So we'll see everybody at the next talk. Hi, Ashley.
Hello.
That's my daughter in Montana.
Oh, hi.
Hi, John Gray.
Hi.
So you have any questions, anybody, real quick, before we...
I think we only have 1 second.
5 seconds.
Yeah, 5 seconds.
See you later, guys.
Okay. Thanks so much, everybody.